I guess I'll sing it.
Whatever you want to do.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. If they should bar words, what would we do?
We'd be out of letters.
I'm Sean, and this is Brooks.
Hey, everybody.
This is another edition of Star Words, where we read from the letters column of the old Marvel Star Wars comic.
It's been a minute since we've done a show.
Been a little while.
Life happens, so you understand. Last time we read was issue 8?
Yes.
And issue 9, I take it, didn't have any letters?
I guess not, because the next one I've got here is issue 10, so...
All right.
So I think that's the next one. Before we get there, though, I did have a surprise for you.
Oh.
I got this from Lone Star Comics.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to have...
It's got your letter in it?
In the very back, yeah.
Oh, cool.
A fan letter from Sean Gilbert.
Sweet.
Which you probably can't read there, but I'm going to read it to you. I have not read this. I wanted to keep it fresh. Because I have not read this since 1992.
Read it in your 18-year-old voice or whatever.
I'm pretty sure this is my 18-year-old voice.
Dear comic publisher, I enjoy your publication.
Pretty sure I haven't improved since then, so this is probably the same exact voice.
Actually, Freddy's claws are made of a different tempered steel.
Yeah. I have a very serious opinion
Okay, go ahead.
about Frederick Krueger.
That's not what it says.
No.
I wish it was.
It does begin, Dear Dream Stalkers.
Love it already.
I just finished reading the first issue of Nightmares.
And couldn't wait to write a letter.
Yeah, and that's it.
I literally just finished. I had to write. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have to tell you, I loved it. I have a few suggestions for the series in the future. After issue 1.
Yeah, we'll get together. We'll meet. We'll have
Allow
lunch.
me to weigh in on this.
Yeah.
After one of what will be 6 only issues ever.
And I will expect a writing credit. Go ahead.
I hope you don't feel insulted by my trying to tell you your business. But one of the things I find to be the most stylish aspects of the Nightmare series are the quotes that precede. Precede is spelled precede as though it's proceed, but with an E.
Well, all right. Nice that they didn't correct that for you.
Yeah. That precede the 3rd, 4th, and 6th movies. If possible, I think a good quote before a new storyline would only compliment again. Come on, dude. What are already very well thought out stories. I just said I'd only read 1 issue.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to bring up is something Andy Mangles was talking about in issue 1, which is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3D, which was written and partially penciled as far as I understood from what he said. I guess it was partly done, is what I understood.
So a 3D comic they didn't release? Is that what you're talking about?
I guess not, yeah, because I don't recall ever seeing
We need
one.
to track that down and see what happened to that.
If this is the case, then would it be possible to acquire the work that's already been done for publication by Innovation instead of the now bankrupt Blackthorn? That's funny, because Blackthorn used to do, that's what they used to do, is buy up like these cheap licenses. There's actually a kind of hard to find Blackthorn Star Wars series, 3 issues, and they were all 3D.
I did not know that.
I have them.
I'm surprised Dark Horse didn't do that. Dark Horse.
This is before Dark Horse.
Before Dark Horse. Well, I guess
at least before they threw their hat in that
close.
ring. Yeah, Dark Horse started coming up because Dark Horse got famous for doing, like, this is funny, like, the Innovation did this, but it was very common and still is for these independent publishers to pick up licenses because it's the only way, to have bankable IP that has a built-in audience.
I have
most of these old companies made their bones with these old licensed products.
I still have somewhere, because I only know I've been trying to alphabetize my comics. I have Innovation Vampire Lestat adaptation.
I had at least the first issue of that for a while. I don't know if I still do or not.
I don't think I've read it since it came out, so I don't remember.
But I had Innovation. I had to rebuy these because I used to have all of these, and I've been rebuying them because I can't find them. I also had, and I don't know if I still have, they did a Quantum Leap comic for a while. They were doing all kinds of stuff, which was also written by Andy Mangles, the same guy who wrote the Nightmare one. But he was pretty good.
That's the end of your letter?
No.
Oh, not at all.
I was just trying to give you like some context.
I need some popcorn.
I know I don't understand the specifics, but if you are already adapting Freddy's Dead, it might be a good idea to adapt the other films. I, for one, would at least enjoy seeing the others adapted, whether in 3D or not. Mangles also mentioned how he would have worked on Marvel's Nightmare book before their brain trust decided it was not a family comic. Ooh, that's like toxic nerd sarcasm.
Marvel had a Nightmare book?
Sure, I can
Nightmare on
show
Elm
you one of
Street?
those. They had two issues of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and which I had both at one point too. For some reason, like I'm separated from my Nightmare on Elm Street collection of things. I kept those in a separate place. I used to have the Screamin' vinyl figure, like the big, like this
Yeah.
tall. I'd love to have that, but I guess I kept those all in one place, and I don't know where that place is now.
Hmm.
So I rebought the first issue. There were only two. They were putting out as a magazine, so it already wasn't a family because Marvel would put out stuff in magazine format because it didn't have to conform to the comics code.
Oh, yeah, man. I
And they,
love their Savage Sword of Conan books.
oh yeah,
They
and they
were
had
the
like the
best.
Howard the Duck had like nudity and stuff, like sex scenes with Beverly. Like this is weird. I don't know. I don't know if I support this, but it's interesting.
All right,
I
continue
mean,
your
I
letter.
support the relationship, just not the gratuitous sex.
Yeah, we don't need to see that.
The nudity is weird. Yeah, the full Howard dong, not necessary.
Plus, I hear the guy hangs dong, and I'm very interested in seeing that.
Me too.
Yeah, he hangs down.
Very graphic, especially because they're corkscrewed. You ever see that True Facts About Ducks video?
No,
They have corkscrews,
I don't.
and that's real.
Why are we talking about this? This is way out of our lane.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't think I'm putting the proper context to this at all. All right, let's see. Why it took them 2 issues to figure this out, I will never know. It was only 2 issues of comic, by the way. Perhaps they decided they couldn't take Freddy to the level of exploitation. They'd managed to get other violent characters such as Wolverine, the Punisher, and Ghost Rider. Yeah, I was real anti-Marvel back then, apparently.
Well, you were indie, man.
Well, I was probably super DC
You don't want
versus
that
Marvel
mainstream
back then.
nonsense. Corporate BS.
However, their initial story was a good one. It may sound silly, but maybe you could acquire characters developed by them, like Allison Hayes, whose fate was undecided at the end of the story. Also, as far as cover artists are concerned, Joe Jusko did a wonderful job on the covers he did for Marvel, and I wouldn't mind seeing more of his work on your series.
Maybe you could stop talking about Marvel and start talking about our book.
Yeah, maybe get up out of our shit. Like
Yeah.
one issue.
You guys are okay, but
running
have
the
you
whole
seen
book.
the Marvel
Maybe.
books?
The 2 issues of Marvel, maybe you could just take over their stuff. Like, we got this covered, Sean. Don't worry about it. I would also like to see characters from Freddy's Nightmares series return, especially from the ones that featured Freddy, like Freddy's Tricks and Treats and Sister's Keeper. I was also wondering if you might consider accepting fan-written stories,
Oh, how sweet.
giving the fans an opportunity to make a little part of the Elm Street universe their own. Anyway, that about does it. Thanks for letting me waste your time with my suggestions. I just thought I'd share my opinions with you. Maybe they can be of some use to you. Sean Gilbert.
Did they write back?
Yeah. The Freddy's Nightmares TV series is not being considered part of the official chronology. The Blackthorn Comics material, sources say, had below standards artwork. By the way, this is the artwork of their series. Can you see that?
Kinda, yeah. The lights. Not so great.
So who even knows? Yeah, that was never published as far as I know, so I didn't see that. But the artwork for the Star Wars one was not bad. Let's see. We've been waiting on some sketches from Joe Jusko. Yeah, those never came. Andy Mangels is the only authorized Nightmares on Elm Street writer in the world right now, which ensures good story and good continuity. And that's their answer.
That's a nice way of saying we don't have the rights to all that.
Well,
Marvel's
and
characters,
we
the TV
don't
show
accept
characters.
fan-written crap.
Say, we'll accept it, but we won't use it.
Send it. No, they would never say that either.
Yeah.
Like, please keep your unsolicited garbage to yourself. It's funny because back in those days, like, you could send unsolicited stuff, like for Star Trek novels and things like that, for consideration. It's wild to think about.
Yeah, I guess legally they don't do that now because they're afraid you'll sue them or something if they use something
Well,
similar, I guess.
Star Trek in particular ran into some issues where people would suggest stories and they're like, "Yeah, we're already doing something like that," and they just do it. And you'd never know for sure.
Yeah.
So they do have to be a lot more careful. Most people don't accept unsolicited manuscripts of any kind. There's only a couple of publishers I know of at all that will take an unsolicited manuscript.
It's
And
weird. It's kind of sad that there's that barrier to wannabe writers, you know. They have to
it's
go
tough.
through some agent or some nonsense just to be heard.
It's tough. I mean, those barriers do serve a purpose. I mean, you want some kind of gatekeepers to be there so that you know that there's been some kind of QA to that work someone has said. But
Yeah,
it
I
does
mean,
make
but they
a
don't
sort of
have to print.
narrow.
I'm just saying it's not like they would print everything they get, but they might be missing on some good stuff by some guy that doesn't have access to an agent, but is a
Hmm.
great writer, you know.
Well, I think that's just the fears. Like we limit the liability by not accepting that kind of stuff.
Yep, yep, yep.
So you don't get some hack sending them something and then saying, "I came up with the idea for Avengers Endgame." You're like, well, I mean, it wasn't like super original. I mean, all that's drawing from other stories and stuff
Do
in
the
the movie.
guys that wrote the original Marvel comics that they do adapt things from, do they get paid for that?
Um,
Do they get
I
credit?
think they get credited for sure, and I think they've generally been pretty decent about paying some royalties out. But I think DC is actually better at paying royalties to their creators than Marvel. Because I want to say Jim Starlin or somebody was saying how they got better compensated from DC for some of their ideas that are way less popular in the mainstream
Yeah. Hmm.
than say like Thanos, like is as a contributor to the MCU. But I don't know, like
It
they don't.
must be weird to be like Chris Claremont or somebody that no one would recognize you. You know, you'd walk into a store, no one would care. And you're like, man, I created a lot of characters. Actually, Lynn Wein created them. Like Lynn Wein could be like, I made Wolverine. So,
Hmm.
who are you? Whatever, dude. Hugh Jackman made Wolverine. You're nobody.
Well, it's a work for hire, so you're taking your chance there. Like it's a long shot that that will ever. But I mean, that's what contracts are probably a lot more granular now because they're like because of the possible conversion to another medium.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, a
back
lot of
then,
people
like the
didn't
idea of
have.
comic books becoming like mainstream in blockbuster movies.
Yeah, I remember when streaming started, a lot of actors and studios were upset they don't have the royalties for that. Like they could stream Seinfeld and not pay the people in Seinfeld because they had a TV
And
contract, not a streaming
I
contract.
scoffed at the time, but they had a point. Because at
Yeah.
that time I was like, who gives a shit about webisodes? It's like no, they were seeing where it was headed, and now it's a real issue.
Now that's all people watch. Anyway, let's get to the Star Wars before people
Okay,
lose
yeah,
interest.
this is from issue number 10.
Issue number 10, which is a good issue, I think. I don't remember.
Good
What
issue,
happened in
fun
issue
stories.
10?
This was the I think this was the resolution of the Aduba
Oh, is this when they fought the giant
3.
monster?
Yeah, this is the Behemoth
The
issue.
Behemoth. Cool. All
So
right.
let's see. This one begins with a special note from editor Roy Thomas. It's been a blast, people, but it's time to move on. With this issue, artist Howard Chaykin and I have decided to leave the drawing and writing chores on Marvel's blockbusting Star Wars comic mag to other hands. Each of us has his reasons. For Howie, it's a desire to do other types of art, including some painting. You'll be seeing one of his covers on an issue of our companion title, The Savage Sword of Conan, any day now.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
That's
that's
neat.
nice. Yeah, that was a good book. For myself, it's a bit more complicated and personal. Suffice it to say that after 2 or 3 post movie issues of Star Wars, I found that, much as I love space opera, I'd be doing myself and Marvel a lot more good by writing and editing other mags instead. Said other mags to include a certain gold tressed thunder god just a few short weeks from now, and a couple of truly spectacular projects which are likewise in the works.
Do you
So I
think
thought
the people complained in some of those letters? You think maybe?
I don't think that they had as much of an impact, but I mean, the feedback got back to him that George wasn't really digging
Oh, so
his
George
story.
made the call.
And I think just behind the scenes, Roy Thomas was starting to feel like he wasn't appreciated enough for the contribution that he made in those early days of getting Star Wars promoted
Yeah.
through the comic and just at conventions and stuff like that. He kind of, and you hear that from like Charlie Lippincott too. Some of those guys who were really there at the beginning kind of fell out in not feeling like they were appreciated enough for their efforts. It's not for me to say if Roy Thomas is justified in that, but I don't know that his contribution to Star Wars in producing this particular comic book, I don't know, it is a good contribution. Like
I mean, millions of them were
bringing
sold, right?
Star Wars to Marvel really helped to save Marvel, and it was big for Star Wars as well. So I don't want to marginalize his contribution, but I do feel like he felt like he wasn't getting enough appreciation. Like some people got special bonuses for what they had done
Yeah.
for the film outside of what they'd already been paid. And he did end up getting some extra compensation from Marvel for just the continued success of the Star Wars comic and just in reprinting that adaptation, which is still getting reprinted today.
Yeah, that's nuts.
So that played a part of it. So let's see. So thought I'd get off at the top, as it were. While Star Wars the comic book is a virtual phenomenon, easily the most published four color comic in at least 20 years and then some. And nope, Howie and I certainly are not taking credit for that. It was George Lucas's film, of course, which spurred the success. My own contributions primarily were number one, the fact that there was/is a Star Wars comic mag, and two, a certain sureness that the movie would be at least fair to middling hit and would be the type of thing that comics readers were ready for. Three, the choosing of Howard Chaykin, one of the finer new talents around as artist. And that's a bit weird because not only like Lucasfilm specifically asked for Chaykin, and two, didn't quite actually get him. But Chaykin's
Yeah.
contribution is sort of questionable in terms
Was he a new
of the
artist, I guess,
adaptation.
at that time?
No, I mean he was pretty well known. I mean, not like a legend like he is now, but he had certainly done a lot of indie stuff like Star Reach that they
Said
were
he's
aware
one of
of
the new talents. But that's
the
cool.
coat. Yeah, they're like Cody Starbuck kicks ass. We'd love to see that guy do Star Wars, but his Star Wars work did not look like Cody Starbuck. So let's see. And now, with fond farewells to Titanic Tom Palmer and the other anchor embellishers who've helped us launch the Star Wars mag, Howie and I would like to fade gracefully into a Tatooine-type sunset with best wishes for the talented team of Archie Goodwin and Carmine Infantino who plan to pick up the Luke Skywalker subplot where Mr. C and I left off. Oh, yes, and since I won't be handling future letters pages, I thought I'd best respond to a mountain of missives which pointed out that in issue number 7, Han Solo referred to a given planet as Dantooine in one planet, Tatooine.
Panel, I guess is what he's trying
I
to say.
guess they wrote planet, but yeah, in one panel, and Tatooine in the next. 'Twas, alas, a typographical error ye writer editor made, typing Dantooine twice on page 2 when he meant Tatooine both times. Phoned in the corrections later while the issue was still in production in New York, but somehow only one of the offending references was corrected. That's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, so help me Darth Vader. Now for a
I
few
don't. Did
letters.
we remember? Did we catch that? I don't think we caught that.
I don't remember catching that.
Interesting. I wonder if they changed it in the digital edition because I don't remember seeing that.
Could be true, because we read from the digital editions, so that's very possible.
We might need to research this. Issue 7.
It was issue number 7, so I got it. We can go back and look.
Sure. Let's do
And
that
then
after.
we'll just all rewatch that episode.
Yeah.
Now for a few letters on Star Wars number 6, which concluded Marvel's adaptation of the monumental movie itself.
Oh, so we still haven't gotten the letters about the new
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah, so at least this will be the end of it. And the next time we do a Star Wars, they'll be talking about,
Jackson.
because they have seen those letters, I'm sure, at this point. Maybe not, but maybe he didn't get any of the fan feedback before he decided to step down, because it was pretty fast. That was only a 4-issue run. This is the last issue of that 4-issue
Well,
run,
after the
and he's
adaptation.
already handed it off, because I think we pointed out that this one was scripted, yeah, by Don Glutt. So he'd already pretty much handed over the book by this point. So let's see. All right. Without a doubt, the 6th issue of Star Wars was one of the best Marvel comics I have ever read. The
Nice.
year's best comic?
Hmm.
I thought I had witnessed high points in comics history with the appearance of the Silver Surfer, or the coming of Conan, or the more recent Fu Manchu epic in Master of Kung Fu. But against your awesome adaptation of George Lucas's fantastic film, they all vanish into nothingness.
Hold
And the
up.
art,
Hold up.
fantabulous. Yeah, you're telling me issue number 6 of the Star Wars adaptation was better than the Silver Surfer?
I mean, I'm glad he liked it, but I
Yeah,
wonder. I wonder if he
and
still feels that way, or if that was
I
just like.
love Conan too.
Hmm.
So I don't think the Star Wars comic is better than Conan.
I don't remember the adaptation being that fascinating, but
It's
we didn't
not.
read it. We got to read it again for the show.
We may have to cover it for the show. I have read it, but
we'll get issue 6, and we'll be in tears at the end.
this
Like,
is
this has changed my life.
I've never even known Star Wars could be like this. Let's see. At first, I was a bit wary of Howard Chicken's illustrations, but he has improved 100-fold since number 1. Ha ha. Yeah, your work was garbage compared to this issue, which is amazing. Like, that's gotta feel good.
It's like
I
whenever that new
I
guy
did
took
not.
over, your work got so much
Like,
better.
somewhere along the line, your work just got a maturity that I've never seen in anything you've done before, bar none. Funny. He didn't actually do the work.
Oh, come
All
on.
right.
Read this next sentence. This is too much.
Indeed, the last few pages were simply beyond any form of earthly description. Like, did you guys write
Oh,
this letter yourselves?
come on.
I'm glad to see that Han and his furry friend will be going on some solo
Ha
chuckle
ha ha.
adventures. In fact, the Corellian is far too restless to remain beside Luke forever.
That's what you
Why
think.
don't you give him his own mag? That's not a terrible idea.
Not at all, actually.
May the force be with you. Mike Heisler from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's some serious praise.
Yeah. I didn't really have a Pittsburgh accent
It's
that
all
I
right.
could have used,
I'm not
so
sure what a
it doesn't help.
Pittsburgh accent would sound like.
It's like Pennsylvania. You gotta watch the Kroll show where they do Pennsylvania,
I'm
but
sure.
I don't have it. Or sometimes in It's Always Sunny, they'll do Pittsburgh accents for some reason. And it's funny.
I'll do this one. I can read it a little
Okay.
bit. So you guys know, I can barely see this on the screen. That's why I'm like squinting like an old man. I am an old man, but Burton Glass. Star Wars. I like how they capitalize it all the time. Star Wars is
I do that.
success supreme. When's the annual gonna come?
Yeah.
It's like
Not
after
for a
issue
while.
12, dude. It's not even a year yet.
It's going to be like they're in the mid-20s before, because I want to
Well-
say it was like 79 or 80 before they had the first annual.
But it's weird that he's writing this after issue 6.
Yeah, he's
And he's
like
like,
me.
"Where's
I just
the
read
annual?"
issue with number 1, and I have lots of notes. Like, cool,
Like,
your damn
where's the
jets.
annual? It's like, read the next 6 issues and then ask for an annual.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, we still have to make more monthlies.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a weird question. I guess I don't remember anybody. When I was reading comics as a kid, back in the days of yore, but not this back, annuals were like throwaways for most of us. Like, we picked them up sometimes, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like I was excited about an annual. Like, ooh, the new Spider-Man annual. Because they're
No, because
always
they were
like,
always separate. Yeah, it's
they're
always
like
a throwaway
one-shots,
story.
and they usually weren't the same creative team, and
Mhm.
they weren't that great, So
They weren't super excited. And then later on, And what they still do now is try to leverage annuals as a kind of crossover event, and it's even worse. It's like I'm sure as shit not buying all the annuals
Yeah, I remember like
so I can read
Atlantis
some invasion
attacks
story.
and
Like who
stuff like
cares?
that.
Or Future State. Well, actually, Future State. I think DC's obnoxious now. They have so many events that like with their own one shots and things. You're like, I'm definitely not.
They can't
I don't
keep
even know
up
what you guys are
with their
doing with
own
Swamp Thing
stuff.
right
Yeah.
now. Like Swamp Thing's had like 8 one shots and no series. Like I put it all in a book. As Leia said to Han Solo, "You're braver than I thought for going on past the end of the movie. Keep on trekking, make my marvel." Like that
Trekking.
guy.
Ooh, slid that in there.
From Rod Richards from the USS Kansas City.
Oh, a
So there you
ship.
go.
Interesting.
Pretty awesome.
A
Keep on
sailor.
trekking. I love that. Live long and prosper.
They probably didn't have that rivalry back then, though.
Well, it doesn't have to be a rivalry, but we still understand the distinction.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying he probably is just like, I like sci-fi. Keep on trekking.
Mm-hmm.
Not, you know.
I like the Star Trek you got going on here. Let's see. Pammy Bowen from Bridgeport, Connecticut writes, "This is a sincere thank you for your wonderful adaptation of Star Wars. I have avidly read issues number 1 through 6 and have come to the conclusion that no one could have done better. The art was lovely and the writing of first class quality. After standing in long lines and paying a bundle to see the movie 6 times, it was refreshing to enjoy this enchanting story in my home. May the force be with you always." Sweet.
That's very nice. I'll do this one. Is this
All right.
Dobie Dunn? Is that Dunn?
Yeah.
Dobby?
I think it's Dobby.
That's a very Star Wars
Master
name.
must not go back to Hogwarts.
Now, I think Dobby is a Star Wars sounding name.
Well, Dobby's actually a Harry Potter name, though.
Well,
It's an actual Dobby in
there
Harry
can
Potter.
be a Dobby in Star Wars. I have only one thing to say about Star Wars number 6. Yes!
Yeah. Yes!
So he wrote a letter, and he just had that one sentence.
Put a stamp on it.
All right,
I
man.
wonder you withheld your address. Nancy Porter in Rosedale, New York writes, "I recently purchased the December issue of your Star Wars comic. My only regret, being a big Star Wars fan, is that I wasn't aware of the existence of such a comic before today. Naturally, I'm interested greatly in all Star Wars material. Is there any way I could acquire the previous issues of the comic book? I'm sure many of the latecomers would also be interested in knowing this. This has come up before, and it blows my mind.
Yeah.
People would just write the people who made the comic and say, "Hey, where do I get the back issues from?"
Well,
Like,
if they're
I know
not-
they're the publisher, so it makes sense.
I mean, if they're not comic people, like they're just Star Wars fans who saw a comic book, don't know anything about comics, that makes sense. They're like, yeah, how do I get one?
They just use
They're
it
not
as
gonna
the,
ask
the
the
sort
guy
of
at the-
customer support line.
Yeah, they're not going to
Hey,
ask the
yeah.
guy at the grocery store because he doesn't know, you know? I like how they always answer this question. They always
Sure,
answer.
'cause they're
Like,
like-
I'll tell you where to buy
Yeah.
some.
I'll put them in an envelope right now.
Yeah, send me a check.
At present, Nancy, as we've mentioned before in recent issues, there are some
Which
2
she wouldn't
million
know because she hasn't
copies.
seen those. But go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I was wanting, jackass. There are some 2 million copies or thereabouts of Marvel's version of Star Wars in print, counting 2 or more printings of the comics themselves, all but the first edition saying reprint clearly on the cover, but otherwise identical. No,
Not all.
we've covered that in a different video. The 2 Marvel Treasury editions, which between them represented the whole epic and a few new drawings besides, and just out paperback, which includes the entire 100 pages between 2 covers. Yeah, the one that I have is the Treasury edition, but it's the entire adaptation in one book. But when they originally did it in Treasury editions, it was 2 different issues. Like, so you had to get issues 1 through 3 and then 4 through 6 in a different Treasury edition. I don't
Yeah.
have any of those. I saw a library edition of one of those that was like library bound. I was like, I'd love to buy that.
Oh,
That's
wow.
really interesting. And they made like a big hardbound copy.
For libraries?
Yeah, well, I mean, they just library bound it.
Oh,
So it's
okay,
like
I
they
see.
didn't make it for the library. Our companion mag Pizzazz, which also includes 3 pages of Star Wars madness each and every month, by the same Thomas Chaykin team, which brought you issues 1 through 10, has featured our own ads for the Treasuries, and we're sure that ads for other editions will pop up in our mags and elsewhere to boot. Good hunting, Nance. Like, just keep buying all Marvel products, and maybe we'll advertise how you can get back issues. It's like, thanks, Roy. P.S. Oh, yes, and rascally Roy Thomas would like to thank his good buddy Don Glutt for stepping in to dialogue this 10th issue after he and Howie had plotted it out. May you find a rocket rabbit in your own briar patch, Don.
Okay.
That was a weird thing to
they
say.
Talking about Jackson? Or is this just like a saying that they have around the office?
I don't know. What's this briar patch bullshit all of a sudden?
Language, man. This is a family channel. We're talking about children's comics.
Yeah. Not supposed to say briar patch.
Drinking beer. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, we'll be back. Like I said, look for TV at My Dinner on YouTube and Facebook. Obviously, we are Marvel Age Star Wars, so you're here already. Subscribe to those channels, like the videos, and keep an eye out because we'll have more content coming. In the meantime, my name is Sean.
And I'm Brooks.
And talk to you next time.
Snoop.